Hello and welcome back to Pilates with Marilyn. My name is Marilyn Harder. I'm a Pilates instructor and Pilates master trainer. Today we will be doing episode 6, which involves activating our bodies in all directions for strengthening and mobilizing the spine. Now, if you have osteoporosis, that means brittle bones, decalcification of your bones, you want to make sure that you're very careful with your movement, and I'll highlight when things are not right and things are right for you to give you modifications. And if you have any disc issues, the same. You may explore the movement on your own terms, but just know that if anything causes any sharp, stabbing, or shooting pain, stay with the modification or the option that I give you. All right, with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Let's make our way down to the floor in that supine position, laying on our backs, gazing up towards the ceiling. And we're going to just take a moment and find the activation of our core. Bring our hands into that diamond. Fingertips towards the pubic bone, thumbs are towards the belly button. I'm just going to take a moment and try and walk my hips down just a bit, giving myself some elongation of that spine. Big Pilates breath in through the nose. Exhale, blow out all that air. Feel those ribs draw together and down to the floor, trying to make contact. We'll do that again. Big inhale in. And exhale, blow out all that air. Try and cinch that waistline in a little tighter. Now let's add that movement. Big inhale, roll that imaginary marble towards your pubic bone. And exhale, roll the marble down towards your belly button, flattening and elongating the spine without smashing it into the ground. Inhale, open back up. Try to do this movement with only your abdominals, keeping your glutes, aka your buns, and the tops of the legs quiet. We'll go ahead and go one more. Big inhale, open. And exhale, roll that imaginary marble down towards the floor, pause and hold. Flip the palms up towards the ceiling. Give yourself a good shimmy down your back, making sure the shoulder blades are flat. One more good deep breath to really knit those ribs together, which just means closing them and anchoring them to the floor. You should be fully imprinted. Let's float our knees one at a time into a tabletop position, firing those glutes as they draw up. You can point the toes if you're there in your practice, but if it takes away from the concentration of the core, just forget you have feet. Starting with an alternating toe tap. Keeping those abdominals on, we're going to hinge at one hip, keeping that 90-degree line, taking the toe down towards the floor, but don't touch down. And switch. Use your breath. I like the exhale on the hardest part. For me, the hardest part is on the way down. That's where I really need to focus my control. But for you, the hardest part may be on the way back up. Only go in a range of motion in which you can keep control of the imprint. You don't want any rocking of the pelvis or deactivation of that imprint. You can press through those arms for a little bit more. Good, we'll go ahead and even out right to left. And then bring it on in, setting one foot down to the floor, setting the other foot down to the floor. We're going to extend those legs out nice and long. So as we extend those legs out, I want you to go ahead and find a imprint again. Roll that pubic bone up towards the ceiling, trying to imprint as best as you can. All right, hands come down by your sides. I'm going to flip mine up towards the ceiling to keep my shoulders back and down. And exhale, close the ribs, lever up from the rib cage. Gaze towards those toes. In this little mini chest lift position, make sure you're not jutting your chin forward. Draw it in, deep neck flexors. Take a second exhale, try and float up one more inch. Good, gaze at those toes, and then slowly make your way down. Let's do that again. Arms come up over your head, shoulders back and down, chest lift up. Gaze towards the toes. Good. Now imagine those legs are really light like a feather. See if you can float one up just a few inches. Reach and elongate that leg out while you reach up towards it. And then slowly lower both of them down. We're going to stick with that same side. Hands come up over your head only as far as you can go without popping that rib cage. Keep it down. Big inhale there. Exhale, chest lift up. Give me that double chin. No one's looking. Good. Now float that leg up. Good. Big inhale there. We're going to try and come up one more inch, reaching my toe away. And slowly make our way back down. Best things in life comes in threes, so we're going to do a third one. Big inhale there. Exhale, chest lift up. Gaze at those toes, float it on up. Flip the palms up towards the ceiling. Second exhale, come up one more inch. And slowly make our way back down. The goal is to keep the glutes firing so that way the leg feels light. All right, we're going to even out on the other side. Big inhale there at the bottom. Exhale, chest lift up. Good. Make sure everything feels connected. Shoulders back and down. Double chin. Exhale, come up one more inch. Now float that other leg up. Make sure you're reaching and elongating away. The glutes supporting the weight of that leg. And then slowly lower it down. We're starting to warm up what's called our sling system. Big inhale there. Exhale, chest lift up. The sling system, and let's come up one more inch, is your oblique. Upper oblique on one side, down to opposite lower oblique on the other. It's responsible for rotation, safe rotation of the spine. Good, we'll go ahead and go one more big inhale here. Remember, if anything ever bothers your neck, you're welcome to place one hand behind your head. Float that leg up. Let's take a big inhale. Come up one more inch. My palms are flipping up. And then slowly making our way back down. All right, so for my osteoporosis and disc issues, you're not going to fully roll up here. You can do one more of that chest lift. Otherwise, we're going to take a big inhale here. Exhale, I want you to chest lift up. My hands are right underneath the small of my back. And I'm going to continue to curl and roll up, pushing through those hands. And I'm going to dive forward, reaching those hands down towards the toes. And then restacking it back up nice and tall. Good. Taking it back again, shoulders back and down. Drawing in those abdominals. I'm trying to curl my tailbone underneath. Notice I haven't leaned at all. I'm just unfurling that spine. Making sure that my toes are reaching elongated. This is called the flexion of the spine. So flexion of the spine creates space within each vertebral disc. So if you have disc issues, it can put pressure on those intervertebral discs. Let's go again, chest lift up. You can tuck your hands underneath again, or you can go for that challenge. Try and come up without the hands, slowly coming up and over, diving towards those toes. And then we're going to restack it back up nice and tall. Now, because osteoporosis is brittle bones, drawing that belly button back, this articulation movement, or rolling vertebrae by vertebrae, puts this pressure on the spinous processes, which are two little bones that stick out on our vertebrae and limit the amount we can rotate. We don't want any of those to snap off, so we always want to be really smart and careful there. All right, now that we're on the floor, we're going to go ahead and roll over towards our right side, or whatever side works for you. All right, so going into our clams, we've got to warm up our gluteus medius. This also starts to warm up what we call our lateral flexion, or our neutral movement of our spine. Hand comes in front of that rib cage and behind, and we're going to float those legs up. We should be really good at clams about now. And now gluing those heels together, let's go ahead and open that top knee and lower it down. If you notice, there's a small little space of light underneath my bottom rib. That's because my rib is lifted and activated, and I'm opening and elongating that top oblique. So lateral flexion just means side lateral, And flexion is that crunch, just like we did flexion of the spine. So lateral flexion of the spine is any sort of side bends. This helps keep our core strong. Let's say if we're holding a child's hand or a pet's leash and they start to take off on us, we've got the core strength to keep ourselves from crunching into that space. Also, ladies, if you have a really large bag, know that you should always switch which side you're carrying that bag on, because we're resisting that crunch against the weight of the bag, and you can actually create what we call functional scoliosis in our spine and disc issues just from the weight of our bag. Good, we'll go ahead and go one more. Hold it up at the top. We're going to separate those heels and let's go into some hip circles. The goal is to keep the hips square and not moving. I'm really paying attention to my core here because remember, it's activation of the spine. And let's go the other direction. So this is safe lateral activation or lateral prep for flexion for everybody. Disc issues, osteoporosis, etc. So when we go into our full lateral flexion, one more, you can come down for a second set in neutral if that applies to you. All right, keeping that bottom leg bent, we're going to go ahead and extend that top leg and try and reach in one direction, toes reach one direction, head reaches the other. Try and find a nice plumb line or straight line down the center of your body. And we're going to go ahead and lift and lower. So in this lift and lower, remember, we want to feel it in that gluteus medius. That's the corners of those glutes. We want to feel that activation there. And our body, our glute med, should be strong enough for us to do 3 sets of 50 of these. So if you're getting tired or you're losing that muscle in the set of 10, these are your homework. Honestly, I had major knee issues, osteoarthritis, which basically means poor tracking of the knee, that was leading to a knee replacement at 30. Now I'm 40, and because of working this muscle, my knees have never felt better. So just know that pain points can disappear when tracking of a bone is good. We'll go ahead and go one more. Hold it up there, tiny little lifts and lowers. And we'll go 4, 3, make sure you're active. I want that small little light. 2, and 1. Good, go ahead and bring it on in. All right, we're gonna press ourselves up to a seated position. Osteoporosis and disc issues, go ahead and stay on down for a second set. Also applies to knee issues if this Z-sit position is not available to you. All right, so I want you to square up. Z-sit, my heel is right behind my knee, knee to hip in the front, and I'm trying to drive down that hip to stay as square as possible. I'm going into a lateral flexion mermaid. So I'm gonna place my hand on the same side as my front leg is my left leg, down arm is my left arm, right arm is coming up. Now I want you to inhale to activate. Okay, now I don't want you to lean. I want you to just crunch and lift and elongate this space. Side bend there. Good. I should be able to float my hand up, stay active, and feel that activation in the core. Compressing the single rib cage is compressing the lung. I want you to breathe into that space. Big inhale there. And exhale. We're going to go one more. And stack back up nice and tall. All right, we're going to take it out to a lean here. Taking that arm out at about 45 degrees. And I want that same level of activation. We're going to lift and elongate that center, and I'm going to start to bend that elbow. And I'm very active. Pressing into the pinky side of that hand, trying to activate the tricep. Big inhale there. And exhale. 2 more. Last one. And stack back up. Try not to use your hand. Use your oblique to stack back up. That's our activation. All right, we're going to stack both knees one on top of the other into a Cleopatra. So it reminds me of sort of a regal position, hanging onto the shins because the body sort of wants to shift. I want you to think about elongating through that spine. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that arm and I'm going to bend the other direction. Okay, if there's any sort of twisting or rotation in your spine, you're going to feel some pinching. Elongate through that spine. Side bend over. Good, and we'll go one more. Take it all the way up, and we're going to reach that arm out at 45 degrees, and we're going to catch ourselves with that arm. Okay, now this is in a neutral position. Osteoporosis and disc issues, you can join us. Squaring things off, we're going to do some elbow taps. Little tricep activation, engage those abdominals, and we'll go ahead and go 3 more. And 2. Last one. Now I want you to press off really hard and grab those shins. Good. And we're nice and active. Let's spin around to the other side and begin at the beginning. Okay, squaring things off. Good. Make sure that that heel is behind the knee, and we'll take a moment and sink that hip down. So this is my tighter side, so I have to just give myself a little bit of adjustment. If it doesn't work for you, you can fold up a towel and put it underneath the hip to create some contact. We don't want any yucky pressure within that knee. All right, so I'm going to take my hand down. Opposite hand goes up. Big inhale to elongate. Exhale, side crunch. But remember, we're opening and lifting. This hand barely is connecting. Compressing in through that rib cage. Take a big inhale there. And exhale. And we'll go ahead and go 2 more. Big inhale there. And exhale. Stay active. 1 more big inhale there. And exhale. And stack back up nice and tall. Take that hand out to that 45-degree line. Stay square. Reach that hand up. Big inhale there. And exhale, slight bend of the elbow. Remember, there's almost no pressure there. I'm staying active through that exhale within the core. So always looking for that oppositional connection. Good. And exhale. 1 more. And then use that oblique, not the arm, to stack back up. Okay, swivel both toes into your Cleopatra. Grabbing onto the shins, try and stack as tall as your body will allow you. And that hand floats up. Inhale to grow length. Exhale, side bend. And let's go ahead and take a good deep breath there. If there's any twistiness, go ahead and unfurl. You'll feel a pinch. Last one. Good. Now let's go ahead and take that arm out for those elbow taps. Finding the mat, dropping the hips so everything is nice and aligned and squared. Elbow tap down towards the mat and press it away. Good. We'll go ahead and go a few more, trying to stay as squared off as possible. I love the single activation of the tricep because it really allows me to focus in on trying to roll the back of that armpit forward, keeping the lat engaged. Good. We'll go ahead and go 1 more, then we'll rocket ship up, grab our shins, and stack back up nice and tall. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to our backs 1 more time. Now, if you would like to, you can extend those legs out, or you can leave them bent. Osteoporosis disc issues come down in one piece rather than articulating. Otherwise, we're going to make our way all the way down to the bottom. So as of our workout so far, we have done flexion, lateral flexion, and activation through our sling or pre-rotation. So we're going to take this into a full rotation. Take our hands back behind your head, shoulders draw back and down. Good. Now let's find our neutral starting position. Big inhale there. Exhale, roll the marble to the belly button and draw the ribs down. My glutes and legs are inactive, but everything feels warmed up. Inhale there. Exhale, chest lift up. Keep those elbows wide into your peripheral vision. Don't let your chin draw forward. Tuck it back in. And then slowly lower it back down. Big inhale down at the bottom. Exhale, chest lift up. This time we're going to hold it there. Good. I want you to take a look at your belly. You don't want it to fluff up like a breadbasket, so we're going to take a second exhale and try to flatten it down. Try and widen it flat. Big inhale there. Exhale. Imagine someone set a 500-pound weight on your core and you're trying to flatten it out in activation. And lower it down. That flattening is a feeling, so don't feel like you need to be totally flat in the core. Just think about flattening that feeling. Big inhale there. Exhale, chest lift up. Hold for the inhale. Gaze at those thighs. Exhale, flatten that core. Come up 1 more inch. That's when the shake comes in. Lower it back down. All right, we're going to go ahead and chest lift up, add a rotation. Big inhale there. Chest lift up. Inhale to hold. Now we're going to float the left leg up and exhale, take that right armpit over towards the left leg. And then draw it back down to center. Toe tap that side down. And come back up, chest lift up. Now if you want a little bit more, you just float that right leg up into a tabletop while you do so. Woo! Adds a lot more activation. Make sure those glutes are on. We'll go 2 more. And last one, then we'll even out. Coming back down to center, recentering ourselves. Neck is long. Let's exhale, roll into imprint. Ribs are knitted and down towards the floor. Good. Core is active. Now glutes fire up. Chest lift up. Inhale there. And then we're going to exhale, float the other foot up, rotate over. And lower it on down. And chest lift up and rotate. And lower it on down. Good. Now if you want it to be harder, you can float that left knee up into tabletop for our last 3. And 2. This is my weaker oblique sling. And 1. And bring ourselves back down. Hug those knees into the chest. And if you need to give yourself a little rock from right to left, do it. All right, hands stay onto those shins. Shoulders back and down. Press your hands into your shins. Hands pull into those shins. Double activation. Chest lift up. Pull yourself up into that nice tight chest lift. And we're going into a single leg stretch. Extending one leg, pulling the other into your chest. Find that nice long, lengthened, and light position with that leg. Find the oppositional pressure. Pull your knee in and push your knee in to give yourself the most activation as possible. And we're going to take a 2 count to switch. Slowly switch. Now just on the other side, find that length and that lightness of the straight leg. Pull yourself up, push your shin into your chest, shoulders back and down, and then 2 counts to switch. Then we're going to stay on that 2 count switch. 1, 2, and hug. 1, 2, and hug. 1, 2, and hug. 1, 2, and hug. Last one. 1, 2, and hug. And I've got to even out from right to left. 1, 2, and hug. Good. Draw those knees in, set the head down, set the toes down, and we're going to stretch in that rotation. Arms are out wide. Let the knees rotate one direction, eyes gaze the other. Now, if this is all you've got in your steam here actually, we have to do glutes on the other side. And let's go ahead and roll the knees the other direction. You might have been wondering, Marilyn, are we ever going to even out? The answer is yes. And come back to center. So after we even out, laying on our other side, we are going to have our natural stopping position with our glute stretch. And then our last piece is to explore extension. All right, now in that side lying position, make sure that bottom rib is lifted, top oblique is elongated, and that rib cage is stacked one on top of the other. Okay, we're going to activate that bottom leg. Make sure that sun shines through the bottom rib cage, and let's activate that knee open and lower it down. So our clams. In the clam position, you really want to try and activate that singular gluteus medius, really trying to find that space. You want to think about relaxing your head. The neck really thinks it can help, but it can't. We want to stay as squared off as possible here throughout the entire movement. And just like when we did in our chest lift, we want to draw in and try and flatten out that core. You got it. You guys are doing excellent. So clams, again, should be part of your daily and weekly routine, or some sort of lateral glute work, whether it's leg lifts, leg circles, clams. I have a saying, and I have an awesome t-shirt that some of my students made me that says clams for everyone, because I truly believe that if everyone did a few more clams in their life, they'll move better, more mobility within the hips, not having those really active and angry IT bands, better tracking of the knee. Good, we'll go ahead and go a few more. For me, it helps even out my scoliosis because we wear our bodies from the ground up. We'll go ahead and go one more. And then as we lift it on up, we're gonna go ahead and go into those hip circles. Remember, keep the hips steady here. Core is active. You've got it. Stay with me. And we'll go one more. And if you notice, the second side is always a little bit more tired than the other. You're not wrong, because the bottom leg always has to stabilize. Check in, make sure you've got your light, when the top leg is working. So this side is already worked. We'll go ahead and go one more. And then go ahead and rest it on down. Lengthen that leg out, one direction, crown of the head, body the opposite direction, trying to really lengthen the obliques and relax that neck and line. Okay, without letting that pelvis move, we're gonna lift and lower that top leg. Keeping that tailbone reaching towards the heels. You've got it. Keep going. Now, if you're getting fatigued or you're not feeling it in the right place, if you're hypermobile, like I am, meaning your knees go beyond neutral, you always want to make sure you feel that hamstring or slightly bend that knee, and it should come right back into that space. And then if it gets too fatigued, you go back to a set of clams. It's a shorter or not quite as heavy version. We'll go ahead and go one more. Lift it up. Let's go tiny little active movements. You've got it. 4 and 3, 2 and 1. Go ahead and rest it down. Roll over onto your backs, and we'll go into those figure 4 stretches, crossing one ankle over the other knee. Now, like I said, this is the natural stopping point for your workout today, if that felt like enough. Otherwise, we're going to be rolling onto our bellies in a moment and switch to the other side for our prone position. So prone position is basically flat on our belly, and we're working our back extensors and our core to actively strengthen and elongate our spine. Now, there is one contraindication here, and that is a very rare disc issue, as well as spondylolisthesis. So if you have spondy anything, don't do the extension without clearance of your doctor. We don't want that vertebrae to shift and put pressure on the spinal cord. All right, so let's go ahead and lay onto our bellies, and we're going to place our hands one on top of the other and let our head rest on our hands. Now, in this position, your natural is sort of like, ooh, I'm just resting and watching TV. What I want you to do is I want you to flex one foot, kind of walk it down and pull a little traction or a little bit space. This for me is also a little check-in. Is this going to be bad for your body? So if you felt any pressure there, chances are that you're not ready for this level of connection, and maybe you just stay in the neutral position rather than move forward with some of the extension. All right, so I like to open my feet about the width of my mat to start. Press your pubic bone forward, and then when you do, you should feel your low back open. So I'm going to just relax again, and then my low back is swayed, and I press my pubic bone forward, and I'm trying to reach my tailbone towards the heel, so thinking about those bony landmarks, and I feel my belly float away just a bit. Now I'm going to take an exhale, pull the lowest tips of the ribs up and away from the floor. So my core is really active, my glutes are really active, and my hamstrings are really active. Draw your shoulders back and down, and we're going into what's called a swimming. It is a hip extension work. So from this neutral, I'm going to engage my glute just a bit more, try to elongate the front without lifting and dumping into my low back. So that's the difference. I'm going to put my hand on the low back just so you can see, and I'm just going to squeeze and release. You'll notice my low back does not change position at all. So now we're going to do the other side. Squeeze and release. As I squeeze that glute, I push that pubic bone in further or harder to create that activation. So swimming is alternating glute squeezes with a neutral pelvis and hip elongation. All right, let's go ahead and switch. Squeeze and squeeze, alternating right and left. Draw in that core. You got it. Now for me, if I go any faster than this, I start to lose the connection with my neutral and then start to take it into the low back. However, if you want to speed up your swimming just a bit more, go for it. So you find what feels right to you. This should feel like a lot of glute work, a lot of ab work. And if you're not feeling the ab work, you're relaxing. Make it active. We'll go ahead and go one more pair. And then relax it on down. All right, we're going into an extension or an activation of the upper body. If this does not feel good to you, go back to swimming. All right, looking down at my hands, I'm going to glue my hands to my forehead, drawing my shoulders back and down my back, pressing that pubic bone forward, exhaling, pulling the low tips of my ribs in. And now by activating my shoulder blades drawing down my back, it'll start to elevate my head just about an inch or two away from the floor. This is all I want from you today. And then lower it back down. In an ideal world, nothing changes in the low back. Exhale. Draw the shoulder blades down your back. Inhale, lower. Now, exhaling as you lift helps activate your core, but it also compresses your spinal vertebrae. So it's a little easier when you start to exhale to lift, but as you progress, think about trying to exhale to prepare and inhaling to lift. You get a little bit more lift, and a whole lot more work. Exhale, lower it down. We'll go one more. Big exhale to prepare. Inhale to lift. And lower it back down. All right. Let's go ahead and place your hands right by your shoulders. We're going to sit it back, give ourselves a little stretch. Knees together, hips out wide. And we're just going to breathe into that back body, expanding the rib cage. Walk your hands over to one side. Let's breathe into that lateral flexion. And over to the other side. So that last movement we just did is our fourth movement of our spine, and it's called extension of the spine. Big inhale there. Controlled extension of the spine is essential for spine health, but uncontrolled extension can translate into pain points. All right, so we're going to finish today with a plank. So if that's your tap out time, you can tap out there. Otherwise, I'm going to spread my hands out nice and wide, Make sure that my shoulders are right over the wrists. Give myself a double chin, shoulders back and down. And then exhale, find that active core that I just had during the prone position. Step one foot back, find a really solid glute squeeze there. And then step the other back to meet it. Now I don't want anything to sink low, so I want you to pike up just a moment to set everything. Press through the pinky side of the hand, roll to the outside of the palm. Squeeze the buns, make sure everything is engaged. And I want you to slowly lower it down. Pause when you feel like you're at your strongest. If you feel any pain points or discomfort anywhere, you've gone too far, come back up. Lengthen the crown of the head in one direction, heels in the other. Try and pull the rib cage in. Hold it, 3, 2, and 1. Pike it back up. Okay, in that pike position, I'm still very active. I'm pressing between my second toe and third toe, finding the activation of my ankles. Now, let's go one more time. Pressing through the pinky side of the hand, engage those glutes. And we're doing a reverse bridge down into our plank. Pause when you feel the strongest. Press your pubic bone forward like in that prone position. Shoulders back and down, double chin, hold it, 4 and 3, 2, pike it up one more time. Good, and let's go ahead and pedal it out. Dropping one heel below, bending the other knee, getting a really good stretch. And switch. Good job today. Now, if this bothers your wrists at all, remember from our previous episode, I said you can roll the mat up to take away some pressure or decompression onto that wrist. You can also purchase a set of gloves that I really like. They're called WAGS, W-A-G-S, wrist assured gloves. And what those do is they create basically a forced wedge within that glove. Let's set those knees down, which puts the pressure on your carpal arch, which is the outside part of that hand, which is where we activate our planks. So we always want to kind of roll into that outside of the hand. It activates our forearm, our bicep, our tricep, and our lat. So always trying to get into that pinky side of the wrist. So breathe for a minute. That was an excellent mobilizing workout for our spine, activating and strengthening our muscles 360 degrees. This is a great workout to come back and revisit because we want to strengthen the spine in all directions. So that way our life movements become free and we don't have an accident or an incident that will throw our back out. You know, imagining something's falling off the counter, you twist and rotate, laterally flex to grab it with some downward force. If we strengthen our spine in all those directions, we will prepare our spine for that movement. So thank you guys so much for joining me. Your goal is to do this 3 times this week, and I will see you next time for episode 7.